Boudreaux. Our guest today is Valerie Wilson Harvey. She's an author. She's written a book, My Father Calls Me Princess, and we're going to find out about that today. So, Valerie, it's so good to have you here.
It's so nice to be here, Linda. Thank you for inviting me.
And I have to say, Valerie is an old friend of mine, so it's kind of a little brief
Yeah,
reunion. So
how
this is
about
a
that?
great opportunity, and I'm so proud of you for
I'm so
writing
excited.
this. It's a very big deal, you know, to write a book and to publish it, and then to have it like a real, tangible thing. It's very exciting.
Thank you.
But tell us, first let's start, I guess, by what is your book about? My Father Calls Me Princess.
The book is actually a great inspiration for every little girl, young and old. I won't say old.
Well, the
We'll
little
say
girl in
big
us all,
girl,
let's
the little girl
say.
in us all, to really inspire every girl to be the girl who God intended for her to be. It is intended to teach every little girl that they are special because they were created in God's eyes, and that they have everything that they need to be successful.
Well, that's a powerful message. It really is.
Yeah.
What prompted you to write this book?
Actually, I was asked by the youth minister at my church to come and talk to the little girls about self-esteem and about modesty. And these are the words I actually said to them. And then later on, there were several different things, including my young daughter who said at the age of 6 that she didn't have any friends because no one liked her. And I'm like, that's not true. But anyway, that was kind of an inspiration, along with all of the work that I've done throughout the years with young ladies and little girls to, really just put that message out that they are, every woman is special, every little girl is special, and they need to know that.
Okay, and really to encompass that, we have to learn how to embrace ourselves.
Right.
Now, your work, which you've mentioned, is you work with DCFS, which is Department for Children and Family Services, and you've retired from that agency.
How about that?
But in terms of that, you've worked with a lot of youth and little girls and big girls, mamas, who've really struggled with self-esteem and those very issues that you address in your book.
Very true. I have over 26 years of experience as a child welfare worker, and during that time, we have seen countless numbers of girls and young women who really suffer from self-esteem and really having the self-confidence and having self-worth. And so it's so important that, as I said before, that everybody knows that they are, no matter how they look, no matter what their abilities are, their skills, that they are just really special.
So Valerie, what happens to our little girls and to our big girls when they don't have good self-esteem? What does that do to them?
Sometimes when people don't have self-esteem, particularly girls and females, they fall into all sorts of things. I was looking at a television program recently on a major network, and they were talking about child trafficking. And one of the things that the commentator said was that the common denominator that she found with most of the women was that they lacked self-esteem. So, that's a major problem when you don't have self-confidence, when you don't like yourself, when you don't feel that you're competent. It really renders you powerless.
And that's really the key here, is that without self-esteem, and we use that word and we've used it repeatedly in today's interview, but what is self-esteem? Not having it makes us powerless, but what is it? What is this gift that we all need to carry within us?
Well, the gift that each of us should have is that we love ourselves, that we have confidence in ourselves, we like ourselves just the way that we are, and we feel confident.
Bad hair days and all.
Bad hair days and all. Yeah. That it just really doesn't matter. When we look at ourselves, we say, I like the way that I am, and it's okay.
Is that something that we can teach? Is that something we can learn?
I think it's something that everyone can be taught, and everyone should learn that they are wonderfully and beautifully made.
Yeah. And that's what My Father Calls Me Princess is about.
That's the general theme, the major message. If there was one message, it's that we are all wonderfully and beautifully made.
What a lovely phrase. What a really lovely phrase. Well, would you mind reading just a little bit of your book, an excerpt of it? Because I would like to hear how it sounds when read.
Okay. It says, my father knew me even before I was born. When I was still in my mother's womb, he named me Princess. He formed me in his likeness. You may call me whatever you want, fat, black, skinny, stinky, any of that, But I know who I am, and I know what I'm not. My father named me Princess. My father is the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. He owns all the land and all the fields. My father calls me Princess. My father has given me gifts of peace, love, and a sound mind. He showers me with his love. When I am lonely, hungry, or scared, he holds me in his loving arms, and he calls me Princess. My father promised that he would never leave me alone. He is with me always. He calls me Princess. He sits up high and he looks down low. He has set me on his throne, you know. My father named me Princess. Some people think that I am not beautiful because I do not look like them, but my father has given me his beauty. My skin is like bronze and my hair is soft like sheep's wool. I look like him, you know. He calls me Princess. I am the righteousness of God. I was born into the nobility of heaven. I am a child of God. Therefore, I must think and act like the princess that I am. I will not sin. I am part of God's nobility. I am God's princess. My body is a temple. It is holy and precious. I am God's princess. It doesn't matter what others may think of me. My father knows that I am special. My father calls me Princess. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
It's just beautiful, and it does make the message clear, doesn't it?
Yes.
Now, Valerie, what age group do you think this book is targeting?
The book is actually written for 6 to 10-year-olds, but it can also be a read-to book. And actually, Linda, I've had moms to purchase this book for their older daughters because of the message.
Yeah.
So it started off being a book for little girls, and then it turned into a book for even older girls.
Well, I'm going to read it to my 2-year-old granddaughter because I think you're never too young to start getting that message. And I'm really serious about that, really serious about that. So how did the words just come to you? I mean, it's a beautiful message, but it's also eloquently stated. So how did it just happen?
I think it just happened. I really don't want to take any credit. I know that I penned it. I actually put it on paper, but I have to admit, and I often tell people that it was really just divinely inspired because I was asleep, not knowing what I was going to say to these little girls when I was asked. I said, I talk to adult people. I train adult people. I don't know what to tell children. And I have taught Sunday school, primaries. But it's not the same. It's not the same as standing up trying to teach them something else. So actually, I woke up one morning and the words just came and I just started to write. When I looked at it, I'm like, oh my gracious, this is wonderful.
This is like, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was really,
Yeah.
very pleased and grateful. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful. Now, we didn't show this before, but I'm going to hold it up now because not only are the words very beautiful and very meaningful, but the illustrations are superb. So I'm just going to flip through, and while I'm flipping, can you tell us a little bit about the illustrator? Who did these wonderful drawings?
The illustrator is Michelle Bryan, and she's actually out of Arlington, Texas. Michelle grew up in the New Orleans area, and she's a product of the New Orleans school system. She graduated from Dillard University, and she's now a professional illustrator. She has great talent.
So, and I think you can see these fairly well. Unfortunately, we don't have a camera person to zoom in, but I just want people to get some feel for how really lovely these illustrations are and how touching. So she's somebody you knew, right? This isn't like a stranger, huh?
It wasn't a stranger, but we had not been in touch for a long time. But when it came to the point where I knew it was going to be a book and I needed an illustrator, we had to actually go on Facebook and locate her. So Facebook is a good thing.
Go Facebook. Go Facebook.
Yeah.
So how do you actually go about getting a book from a concept to a physical thing you can hold in your hands? What are the steps? Because you had to figure all that out.
Oh, yeah. It's actually a process, and it's a long process. It's almost like childbirth. You
Well,
have a
that's a
baby,
process.
yeah, and it has to actually come to a point where it's publishable. Actually, what happened is that I had the script. I located the illustrator. She sat down with the script and she read it over and over again, and then the illustrations came to her.
Kind of like the
She-
words came to you.
Kind of like the words came to me. And she did a drawing for each one of the lines. And from that point, we put them together. We put the pictures together. And I took them to someone, Danziger Media, and she did the layout for me. From that point, we located a published printing company. I self-published the
Right.
book, so the only thing we needed to do was send it off and to the printing company, and then it came back as that book.
Well, you must have been thrilled when you saw it actually
Yeah.
in its full form, and it's very nicely done. I mean, it really is a beautiful book,
Yeah.
and nice. It's nice to hold. It's nice to handle. So, if somebody wants to get this, how can they get it? Because you live in New Orleans.
I live in New Orleans, but anyone can get it. They can go on to the website, which is www.willharpublishing.com
Okay.
and purchase it online.
Yeah, we have it, and we have it on the
Right,
screen.
and
So.
we'll actually mail it out. It's also available at the local bookstore in Gretna, Louisiana, Gospel Bookstore.
So if you happen to be in Gretna,
Right.
go on by Gospel Bookstore.
But if you're not, you could always go online, and
Okay.
it is available, and we do mail out the same day.
Okay, so there's a quick turnaround.
It's a quick turnaround.
Now, the book is, I think, a nice book to read to our children, but you really are finding that it's useful in other ways, huh?
Very surprisingly, other ladies bought it and said, I bought this book for my daughter who's a teenager or a young adult, and I think that is something that'll speak to her. Then people began, at least several people asked me, women, at least one woman who's working with a mentoring group, asked if I could do something that would address the issues for adolescents. So I'm presently working on a project to put it into a form where it can be used in a group setting. I'm writing a curriculum for the younger age group, adolescents, and for adult women, based around the same central themes of the book. And that should be available, I would say, within the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all of this is just kind of leaped out of a request for you to talk to a group of little girls in your Sunday school.
It did.
Do you find that issues of self-esteem are big roadblocks or barriers for many of our girls and young women?
I think that it is. I think that a lot of young ladies or a lot of troubled youth lack self-esteem. There are people who do have lots of self-esteem because they may come from good families who really promote that, or from great Christian institutions or educational institutions that promote promote their self-esteem. But then there are other people who lack it, and so this is a way that we can help to mentor those people who are lacking self-esteem and unable to achieve the things that they would love to achieve in life.
So what role do you think spirituality or the church plays in this? Because this is a Christian book. This is a book about,
right.
in this book, my father is God,
Right.
not my daddy,
Right,
my daddy.
that's true.
And so obviously God and religion and spirituality in this context is a core element of loving yourself.
That's true, right. Because obviously there are some women or some girls who don't know who their natural father is. But of course we all have one. And even
Yeah.
if you don't know who that person is, you do have someone. If you feel, there are people who feel that they have no one. But if you get the theme of the book and know that you do have someone, when you feel in the natural sense, you may not have a friend, you may not have a father, you do have a father. And that father is your creator, and he's the one who makes us all know that we're special.
And he does own all the fields and all the streams and all the
Right,
mountains.
yes. Yes, he does.
So how did you come up with the word princess? I mean, that's kind of all little girls want to be a princess. So was that just kind of where you were coming from with this? Or what brought God and princess together? It's almost like taking the enchantment of our fairy tales and the spirituality of our church and blending them in this book.
I think we all, I think it comes from the theme that we're all of the nobility of God. And you are a princess because you're a woman, you were beautifully made, and all princesses grow up to be queens, and certainly that's who we should all feel that we are all queens in our own right, and that's where the concept of princess comes from.
Well, it works really, really well in this book. What about little boys? We don't have a little boy.
I know. But
This-
we do have a little boys book that we're working on, and hopefully that will be out soon because
Okay.
they're very special too.
So is the work to raise little boys' self-esteem just from kind of more of a social perspective or a sociological perspective? Is the work to raise little boys' self-esteem the same as the work to raise little girls? Is there a difference? Is it the same? Is it all about humanity, or are there gender differences?
I don't think that there's a gender difference. I think that you can have little boys also who do not have good self-esteem, who really don't believe in themselves.
And they become
who
bullies
don't
a lot of
have-
times,
They
huh?
become bullies, and we're seeing a lot of that when you don't believe in yourself or have any self-worth, and you may project that behavior upon other people. So they're just as valuable too, and I think that's a work that needs to be done also, is to help to encourage our young men. Today, we see that all the time. That's so obvious and so evident now.
Yeah, I think really,
Mhm.
we look at girls and we all want to wrap our arms around our little
Right.
girls and hold them close and keep them safe. But our little boys are really vulnerable,
Oh,
and I think they're having a really tough time out there. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think it's harder for them to call on God, than it would be even for little girls. And so I think some of the work that you can do through books like this could maybe help our sons. Huh?
yes, I would agree.
You know.
Right.
So what's your approach going to be with the boys? Do you have one yet? Or are you waiting for it to come to you?
Well, I kind of sort of have it.
Okay. Might not be ready to talk about it yet, but
Not yet.
it's kind of incubating in there.
It's there. It just has to be birth.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand.
But it's there. Right.
So are you working with youth now? Now that you've retired, what are you working with kids more?
I
or-
still work with children in my local church, but mostly I'm working with the ladies group, a ladies ministry right now, and so that's where my major focus is. But I still enjoy working with the youth at church when I get the opportunity to do that.
So how about getting the word out about your book? So have you met people? What are you doing with all of that?
I am presently putting the book into local bookstores and hopefully, and I've also been to a lot of different churches, presented the book at churches. I've done book readings. I've appeared at Princess Teas, and that has been the most fun to see little girls all dressed up and having tea. So I've had great fun with this book for the last year. Just, going around reading it and seeing all the little girls and seeing their faces when they're just sitting there amazed when I said, my father calls me princess and you're a princess too. I remember reading at one tea and the little girl said, does your father really call you princess? Yes, and you're a princess too. And her eyes were so big, it was just amazing to see, how excited she was. And I said, yes, I am. He calls me that, and you're a princess also. And it was like, oh, am I really? Yes, you are.
So it was the magic and the realization.
It was just magic, yeah.
So
see
what is a princess tea? What do we do when we have a little princess tea?
Oh, that's the best fun, Linda. You should try that.
I'm going to learn here and go home and try it out. What do you do?
It's just fun. At the Princess Teas, every little girl is dressed up and just, real cutesy-like, in their best Sunday dresses and ribbons, and everyone sits down to have tea, and they do the Miss Manners, learn all of the little etiquette of drinking tea, and it's just great fun.
And that would be a wonderful place for you to read your book. Is
And we
that
read
what
the book.
happened?
Yeah.
So do people book you in for these kinds of things?
Yes, they do. I've done several of them in the New Orleans area and in surrounding areas. I have been to Houma and Covington, Louisiana, so it's been quite an experience to go.
Valerie, who would have thunk, huh?
Yeah, who
You
would have
know,
thought?
here you were working for the state,
Uh-huh.
had this idea, and now look, it's really taken you in directions I bet you couldn't have imagined.
I couldn't have a social worker all of my life, 30 years of being a social worker, and now I'm having great fun being an author.
But the similarity is still that you're helping
Children.
people and you're reaching
Isn't
out.
that something? Yeah.
Do you see this book as a part of your own personal ministry?
I do. I think that's so important. Um, we have to say as social workers, our hearts go out to people when we see people hurting and not believing in themselves. And we've always been the champions of people. Go ahead, you can do it, you can do it. And so it's almost like a life dream or a life mission, being a cheerleader for people and saying, you can do it, you can really do it, you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. And so it is like a mission. And I've done that all of my life as a social worker, and who would have thought I'm still doing that? Encouraging people that you can be whatever you want to be.
But it really helps to have the strength of the universe behind you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you're a social worker, you can't really bring in the spiritual component
Right.
of it very much, which I
Right.
think sometimes can be a problem in social work because it's hard to really deal with those very deep and fundamental issues that people have without touching on some kind of spiritual or greater than
Yes,
I am
it is.
sort of. I mean, it's like the elephant in the living room. You're not talking about the thing that is right in front of you.
That's true.
You get to do that now, don't you?
Yes, because all of those years we tell people you're special, you can do it, but we never can get to the point as telling them why you're special.
Exactly.
Look, just trust me. I know that you can do it. You can do it, You're wonderful. You have everything that you need. You have great strength. You have great abilities. But we can't ever tell them the reason why we know that they're special. So
And
now I can.
what great freedom that
It
is.
is. It's
really,
great liberty.
really is. So in terms of just working with the book, because again, I think you're special to have been able to do this. Do you think it's changed you in any way? Brought another aspect of your personality out? And the reason I'm asking that is because a minute ago you said, for 30 years you were a social worker, and now I'm an author.
Yes.
So how are you different because of what you're doing now and because of who you've become? Because as you said, you're special too, and you're becoming as we all are.
It's a great freedom. Now it's almost like the sky's the limit. There is no limit to what you can do. When you're working, there are constraints somewhat. But now I have the freedom to write what my thoughts are and, be used in another way. And there is no limit to, what I'll be able to do now. And I'm really excited about that, Linda. It's a great place to be. It really is.
I can see it and I can feel it because,
Yeah.
just for our audience out there, when you told me that you're getting ready to retire and that you were going to go write a book, I thought, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you already had it all lined up. I mean, you were ready to go, and I will say that you look so happy now.
Thank you.
Not that you didn't look happy before,
Yeah.
but it is wonderful to be able to fulfill our own personal dreams.
Yes.
And that's how you mentor, Valerie. I mean, when you're sitting with little girls and telling them you can be whatever you want to be, it's easier to say that when you're being what you want to be, don't you think?
Oh, yes. It makes your message more believable because you're saying it, from the heart, and you know it to be true. So we're the greatest teachers when we've experienced something and we could teach through our own experiences. And let me tell you, Linda, I can remember being a child, and from very little, my teacher saying, you can do this. You can be whatever you want to be. I can remember my mother telling me that also. Stand up straight, speak correctly, articulate your words. And so all of those things when you're young, we have people who mold us and who try to shape us and tell us all of those things that seem insignificant at the time. But all of those things are important. And so now it's our time to pay it forward and do those things that others have done for us. And that's a great place to be able to pay it forward and to mentor other people the way that others mentored us. And all of us had someone who was very special and in our lives that helped us along the way, helped to push us.
Yeah, because
and get us to where we are.
Because we wouldn't be here on our own.
No, we would not. If
So
someone didn't believe in us.
Who believed in you, Valerie?
Oh, my mother.
Who's with
my
us today, by the
My
way.
parents did. They really did. I can remember going to, as far back as preschool. I went to a private preschool, Martinez preschool, and we did a lot of reading, and we were told that we could just, do whatever, and we were smart, and I guess I bought into that. I believed it.
Aren't you glad?
Yeah, I am glad. Teachers throughout my school years, we had teachers that said, we believe in you. And so all of that, really helped to, push you along and help you to believe that and have self-confidence that I could do anything I wanted to do and be, and choose and achieve whatever it was that I set my mind to. And that's so important.
And then for those who don't have those opportunities, for those who don't have those cheerleaders in their own world, don't have parents who can support them, aren't going to school on a regular basis, the church, neighbors, people like you and me,
aunts, parents, nanans.
we all have a responsibility. And
We all
I'm
do.
looking and I see that we're out of time now.
Yeah,
We've
okay.
finished up. I want to thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much,
It's
Linda.
been
I
great.
really appreciate you. You're such a wonderful person.
Thank you.
You so much.
Thank you. And thank you for watching The Extra Mile.